She was named American Atheist of the Year at their conference in March. And today, she's here to talk to us about the importance of community. Teresa MacBain.
All right, so you guys understood I'm a former pastor, right? And you know how dangerous it is that she handed me a microphone, right? No, seriously, I have the timer set on the podium, I have the timer here, and I have informed Amanda to flash me with a card, at about 25 minutes into it so I can leave plenty of time for you guys to ask some questions, if you have questions. Today I want to talk to you a little bit, as she said, about community. Community is one of those buzzwords that's running around the movement. Have any of you heard about the atheist church that was in London? Okay. How about in Houston, Texas? Houston, there is a community that is a humanist church. Mike House, who's a fellow clergy project graduate, has started and is running a humanist church that has, about 80 to 100 people every Sunday morning. And it is a highly successful operation, organization. Some people don't like the word church, but really, besides gathering or assembly or something like that, there's not a great word for it yet. Maybe we need to make up one. Let's have a project, and the winner gets to have the honor of winning. Come up with a new word for people who gather together in community besides the word church. Okay? You guys game? Yeah? Okay, somebody's actually going to email me and say, okay, here's this new word, and it's Farfignugan. I don't know, I couldn't think of anything. So anyway, I want to talk to you about community, and I thought, okay, we're in Kansas. What better way to talk about community than to follow the yellow brick road, right? I know it's a little cheesy, but just indulge me. Okay, so a little bit of translation error there with the two different programs. Anybody old enough, I know you young folks are going to embarrass me, so just don't even say it, okay? But how about those of you who are a little bit older, about my age, remember the TV show Friends? Oh, look, you guys do. I love you. You guys are so awesome. Best crowd ever. The TV show Friends was immensely popular, wasn't it? When the show went off the air, I watched every episode. And when the show went off the air, I was genuinely sad because I was going to miss Ross and Rachel and Joey. I mean, you guys know these folks. How about How I Met Your Mother? You watched that show? Yeah? Grey's Anatomy? I mean, besides the cute guys and girls, there's other reasons to watch the show, right? It's the interaction of the people who work together, who are neighbors, who are roommates, who are friends. Even if you go back a little bit further to when my kids were little, there was a show called Cheers. Anybody remember Cheers? Yeah. You know, you want to go where everybody knows your name. What do those things have in common, and why are they appropriate for this conversation? They're communities. Are they churches? No. They're all communities. They're all different. This group is a community. You know, your Soma group is a community. Last night at Daryl Ray's, there were some of us that had gathered together to talk, to eat, to meet, to have a drink or two. What were we? We were a community. Community is something that, yes, the church offers and the church does very well. You can't deny that fact, regardless of what you believe about religious groups and organizations. One thing they have down pat is community, but that doesn't mean they're the only ones who have it, or that it's a religious part, or it's a religious offering. Community is a human offering. Community is a human need. We are created as social people, right? Social groups, social organizations. If someone in our society decides to pack their bags and go up to the mountains in Montana or Canada or somewhere and live, besides Nate Phelps, now true, he does do that, and we won't talk about him too much. Hi, Nate. I didn't know you were sitting there. That is odd to us, isn't it? It's strange to think that someone would just give everything away and go live in the mountains and never see another human being again, right? Why? Because we are communal people. We are communal creatures. Our society thrives on community, and we are a community. Thank you, Ellie. She's giving me applause. How sweet. She's also 2.5 years old, so take that for what it's worth. Community is derived from a couple of Latin words, which basically mean, when you put the two together, they are gift and togetherness. So community is a social unit that shares common values, but it is in essence giving each other the gift of being together. Now, I know that you'll understand this, and if my husband were here, he would say it's true about me. Sometimes it's hard to be together with someone else, isn't it? It's hard to live in community. Because at first, community is wonderful. It's great. It's terrific. We love each other. Oh, wonderful. How can we be together all the time? But then reality sets in, right? Yes, you know this. If you don't know this, you've not been in community very long. And it becomes more difficult to stay in community. It's hard work, but it's essential and it's worth it. So community is a gift. It is giving of yourself. You have to be, at least at some point, in some ways, you have to be selfless in order to remain in community with people. There's the old saying that the more I know people, the more I love my dog. It's because community can be very, very difficult at times. So let's look at these 4 characters on the yellow brick road. As I said, I'm a preacher. It's difficult to let go of the mic and stop talking, but I need to keep going on. So The Wizard of Oz came out many years ago. I remember when I saw it when I was a little girl. It was one of the first times that we saw things in Technicolor. I had a black and white TV. Do you guys realize that there was actually black and white TVs at one point in history? I mean, I'm older than color TVs, honestly. Doesn't that amaze you? I know, he's so shocked, he just can't believe it. I'm older than dirt. Well, not dirt, but at least color TVs. The Tin Man wanted one thing in life, right? He wanted a heart. Well, in community, that's the first thing that we have to possess and develop is heart. Without it, a community's not going to move forward at all. And remember, I said initially this is really easy because we're so excited. You could say we're infatuated with the people that we're in community with. And so it's easy, but then it becomes more difficult. And so heart is essential for it. Heart means that we care for each other, that we honestly and genuinely care for each other, how we are. Are we doing okay? We take the time, that gift of forgiveness. Yeah, that's part of it too. But the gift of togetherness means that we notice things about someone else instead of continually focusing on what our needs and desires are. We care for each other. We actively use what we have, our strengths, to help each other. Now, how many of you have ever moved before in your life? Okay, and you moved using a U-Haul pickup truck, Volkswagen, whatever. Okay, and how many of you were not able to carry your sofa sleeper down a flight of stairs because it was way too heavy? Okay, did you need someone else's strengths that is a part of your community in order for you to accomplish that task? Yes. If you did not, you're probably going to have back issues like I do, which is why I have to leave early because I did something like this and need to have my back worked on Monday. So there you go. Use those strengths, actively offer them, and accept them. For me, it's easier to offer things to people. It's very difficult for me to admit I need help and to accept the help from someone else. Anybody else feel that way? Yeah, now, I know I'm a preacher. I have to ask you guys for responses. If you want to say, yeah, there you go. I love this front row down here. Now, I can't do the Pentecostal preacher thing. Jerry, I'll have to do it for you. I was a Methodist, so at best, you can have a nap while I'm talking, I guess. I know you. Stop that. We care for each other, we help each other, we offer our strength for physical needs, for the things that, like we said, moving. We sometimes need to help each other financially. Have you guys heard of a group, organization, movement, whatever you want to call it, called Atheist Giving Aid? Did you hear of this recently? Yeah, and how much money did they raise? And I remember the count at like 24 hours for the Boston Marathon victims. Okay, thank you, Adam. $30,000 now. I won't ask you to raise your hands because I don't want to embarrass you, and that's for when my life was as a preacher, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm sure that the majority of you gave a little bit to that. And I'm not rich. I work for a nonprofit. My husband's a cop, but I still was able to give some. Maybe not as much as others, but the point is that we cared. We're a community, and we wanted to be a part of that solution. The news media may not ever want to hear that, and while it's not okay, it's okay for us because we know what our motivation is, and it's not the newspaper. We care for each other. We offer the strengths that we have in order to grow and to move this community forward. And I can't get my slideshow to advance. I know. Aha, there we go. There's your heart again. Everybody see your heart? Say hello, heart. We put up with each other as you are putting up with me so graciously today, and I really do appreciate it. As we move along, we have that infatuation stage. Then we have that stage where it's a little bit more difficult. And then we have the stage where community is beginning to really develop and take shape. And we have to put up with each other. You have to put up with anybody in your life? Okay, if you're married or if you have a significant other, you better say yes. Was that? Or you work. Oh my goodness, yes, I do have a job. I know that. And I hope my employers are not watching this videotape. You have to put up with each other. You have to be committed to not pick on each other. And oh my goodness, I think this is the hardest one in the world for me because we're skeptics, aren't we? We're critical thinkers. Typically, we're a little bit smarter than the average bear, right? Or at least we have the opinion that we think so. And we want everybody to know that, right? I mean, it's difficult to rein that in just a little bit for the sake of community. So it's not just because, oh, that's a good thing to do. It's because we are a community. We are a social structure. We share things in common. We care for each other, even though we're at the point where we're putting up with each other. And we do it for the sake of this group and this organization that can accomplish things like $30,000 to the victims of the Boston Marathon. I mean, wow, that wouldn't have happened outside of community. So we make a commitment not to pick on each other, to not troll. Do you know what a troll is? And it's not Three Billy Goats gruff. Have any of you ever been trolled on the internet? Yeah. Have any of you ever been a troll on the internet? Have you been tempted but just been afraid because you don't want somebody to call you a troll? All right, I'll raise my hand for that one. Yeah, trolling, especially online trolling, is very easy because you're not confronted face-to-face with the person. It's also very easy because, as we said just a minute ago, we have opinions. We have strong opinions. Most of us have worked through extremely difficult things in our lives, things that deal with religion and what we believe about the beginnings of the universe and evolution, and I mean, just expand that all the way out. And we have come out as very strong, opinionated people. Perfect breeding ground for trolls. But if our community is to continue, we can't be trolls to each other. We need to try not to be trolls to each other. I mean, or at least do our best to attempt to start not being trolls to each other. Can we at least come on to a level ground on that one? Judging is the same way. All these things really kind of play into it, and you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, she was a preacher. I wish she would shut up about this because this sounds like preachery stuff. It's not preachery stuff. It's just interacting as human beings with people that you care about in a structure that's known as community. And if we don't at least begin to discuss these things, we're going to destroy ourselves from the inside out. And frankly, this community means way too much to me for that to happen. Okay, so there's my preacher part. We'll move on. The Scarecrow, I think I always identified with him because I was raised in such an oppressive religious system, an oppressive religious family where women were worth absolutely nothing. And I always felt like I'm from Alabama, I was dumber than dirt. I always felt that way. And it was reinforced. No one even bothered to tell me that I could read by the time I was 4 years old, before I went to school. Oh, that's pretty darn good, you know? I mean, it's not genius level. I'm not Sheldon Cooper by any means, but I do have the master's, so I guess you could call me Wallowitz, without the gaudy clothes. I don't know. Anyway, I completely lost what I was going to say with that one. I understand what it means, and when to be oppressed and to be put down and to be ostracized, even within your own family structure. And so the Scarecrow, when I first saw this, and he said, if I only had a brain, I was like, oh yes, if I were only smart, then I could really do something in life. But I knew at that time that the best I could do is find a good man to marry and be a great wife to him, a good, godly, spiritual wife. I think I failed on that one. The truth is that we all have something to offer. The world has told us for years, and not just women, but everybody, that we don't have anything to offer, that you have to be famous, or you have to be rich, or you do have to be some genius level like Sheldon Cooper to offer anything, that the rest of us were just insignificant. But it's not true. Within community, we all have something to offer. We all have talents and skills and knowledge and ability and strengths, things that we must have if we're going to persevere. And I am really sorry about the technology. I don't know what in-ord means. You could fill in the blanks and make some really cool slides out of this. This looks much better. In order for the body to function effectively, every organ, muscle, bone, brain cell, everything has to work properly, right? Everything has to. The old saying is if you stub your toe, you become acutely aware that even the most insignificant parts of your body are very essential and need to be cared for. The same thing is true for society, for our community. Each one of us, even if you're something that now I'm not going to say that anybody in our community happens to be an asshole. I mean, but you got to have one, don't you? I mean, really, seriously, think about it. You do. Yeah, I know, I've embarrassed myself. Every part, I heard that. Every part is absolutely essential in the functioning of our community. Everybody, again, has something of value that they can offer, a contribution that they can make, and is absolutely necessary and valuable. And if you are not a part of what is going on within the community, offering what you have to contribute, then the community is not as strong as it could be if you were a part of it. The lion comes and he shows us, of course, courage, right? The cowardly lion always wanted courage to see, again, fill in the blanks. I love this stuff. Oh my goodness, to see. To seek peace. This is, oh man, talk about difficulty. Courage is one of the most difficult things. People have told me, oh, you had such courage standing up at American Atheists and publicly declaring that you were an atheist. And my response is yeah, I was tripping hardcore on something. I mean, it's not courage. Desperate stupidity would be a better word for it, honestly. But courage is one of those essential ingredients. Yes, we have to have the heart. That's where we start. Brains is where we begin to offer things to continue to grow and to nurture this baby bloom of community that's beginning to grow. But then the hard times come, and courage is essential. We have to seek peace because our community as a whole, our world as a whole, they want to be more combative, right? Remember the troll thing? Trolling online, people that are, if you live up north, my goodness, I lived in New Jersey for a while. Talk about combative people. You don't have to guess what's on their mind at all. Not 1 minute. They will tell you right away. And being from the South, I wasn't used to that. But it's just a symptom of a larger problem that exists within our society, and that is this desire to be combative, to be angry, to not seek peace. But we have to do it. And when we do it, we become even more countercultural than we already are, right? Being an atheist, agnostic, skeptic, humanist, whatever label you want to put on it, it is countercultural. It goes against the grain, and it causes people to look and say, oh my goodness, what are you doing? Seeking peace is one of those things that, seeking peace, having the courage to do so, is another one of those countercultural things. To seek unity takes courage. If our unity is disrupted, we can't be the strength and encouragement and support to each other that we need to be. The strongest thing that a community like ours can offer to society as a whole and to the issues that plague society as a whole is this ability to be courageous and be unified. Did any of you make it to the Reason rally last year? You stood there and you looked around and you saw thousands of people. Some estimates are between 20 and 30,000 freethinkers that gathered. That made a statement. How did it make a statement? It made a statement because for one day we put aside all our differences, all our labels, everything, and said, we are freethinkers, and regardless, we agree on these things, and we want our voices to be heard. And you couldn't ignore the fact that many people who called themselves atheists, skeptics, agnostics, whatever, were there united. That's how a community can make a difference, is through this idea of unity. But trust me, it takes great courage to be unified. It is extremely difficult because unity requires that you handle your disagreements in a way that demonstrates love and mutual respect. That's tough, isn't it? Unity doesn't mean that you don't disagree. Obviously, we're free thinkers, right? Which means we're going to disagree on a lot of different points, right? You probably are disagreeing with parts of my talk, which is fine because I think I disagree with a couple of them myself. But that's okay. The voices in my head, they don't talk to you, they just talk to me, so it's okay. It's no big deal. But we have these disagreements. We acknowledge there are going to be disagreements, and when they occur, we try our best to handle them with love and mutual respect as a community, understanding that, hey, we do really care for each other. We do really like each other. We are trying to be unified so that we can make a difference in the society in which we live in. Courage and unity mean we seek common ground. It means we assume the best about each other. We give each other the benefit of the doubt without jumping on each other immediately. It means that we look for ways to resolve our conflicts instead of provoking them. Oh man, that's a tough one, isn't it? When I'm just really angry at anybody, I don't want to resolve the conflict. I want to provoke them, because if they get mad enough, then I can convince them that I'm right. It's true. If I'm not telling the truth, you can tell me, but it's true. And I'm right and you're wrong, so there. Oh, wait, no. What does that say up there? God, it means acknowledging that you might be wrong. It means saying, I don't know everything. And for me, here's true confession for you. I spent 44 years convinced that I knew everything and that I was right and that you were wrong because you did not follow what I knew to be 100% truth. That you did not follow my personal tribal brand of belief, which meant, of course, I was right and you're wrong. I'm done with that kind of thinking. I am done with that. And you can call me out on it if you catch me doing it at any time. You can remind me of what I said today. I don't want to lay down the law and say, I'm right and I cannot be wrong, because I don't know everything, believe it or not. And if my husband hears this, he's going to write it down and stick it on the refrigerator and point to it every time we have a fight. We have to acknowledge that. It means that we have to listen to each other. Instead of having these arguments, you ever been in an argument with somebody where you're kind of listening to them, but only long enough so you can catch a point, and then you begin to formulate the debate back at them, your argument back at them as soon as they shut up? You ever had that? I know you have. I do it all the time. It means that we don't do that. Instead, we actively listen to what they're saying. M. Scott Peck wrote in a terrific book, he said, there can be no vulnerability without risk, There can be no community without vulnerability, and there can be no peace and ultimately no life without community. As we said in the beginning, religious groups have community. They do it well, but it isn't a religious structure. It's a human structure. And so according to M. Scott Peck, life exists within community. But in order for it to exist, we have to have the courage to be vulnerable with each other. And then Dorothy comes in and she saves the day, right? Her and her little dog and ruby slippers. Dorothy shows us, I love that, building, I'm from Alabama, building community, that there takes some work, let me tell you. Building community, you guys are too much, I'm never going to get through this. Building community takes work. It is hard. And if you think it's not hard, then you just haven't been in a community long enough. Community building, community strengthening, community maintaining is incredibly difficult, but it is absolutely worth everything that we will put into it. When we do it right, when we do it wrong, when we do it kind of in the middle, it is worth every minute of it. Community building, community work means that we see the need, that we meet the need, that we are innovative in those needs, and that we are not afraid to try. Now, I love that this talk is occurring now. I don't love the situation that's surrounding the atheist giving aid effort, but I love it that it fits in so perfectly with what we're talking about today. Because our community, and you guys should be absolutely just elated that you're a part of this community that was a part of giving aid and giving your financial resources to the folks that are in Boston. Saw the need. We knew the need. We knew that there were going to be people, hundreds of people that are injured, many of them without insurance, without any way to stay with their loved one. And if you've ever had anybody that's been hospitalized for a long time, you want to stay there with them, well, you have to stay in a hotel room. And you have to buy your meals and miss work, and it is a definite need. So this community saw the need. This community dug deep into its pockets and met the need. It was innovative. It was through a fundraiser, something that was, didn't you just do it once before with Sandy, Hurricane Sandy? For Sandy Hook, for $25,000. So it's only been tried one time, a trial and error kind of situation, but it was immensely successful. And whether the news media will pick it up or not, eventually they're going to have to. Because we're not going to stop that kind of stuff, are we? We're going to continue to be a compassionate, loving, giving, sharing community that is united in not only offering compassion, but in increasing science education among our schools and children, which you guys are in Kansas. You're like we are in Florida. Our legislature is trying to do some really bad, scary things with our educational system. And our community needs to have a unified voice to stand against that and say, no, we want our kids to be educated properly. We want them to have a chance when they leave the four walls of a high school to actually make it in life. This is the value of community. This is what we are, and this is where we are moving, and it's a very good thing. But we have to work together to do it. Love, brains, courage, all of those are part and parcel of everything we try to do. The heart means that we care. It means that we offer our love and acceptance. We offer our strengths. We meet the needs of people, especially those who are a part of our community. It means that we discover what we have to offer, those gifts, those talents. Well, gifts, that's a church word. Man, I wish I could get away from all that. Our strengths, our knowledge, our skill set, we offer those, we acknowledge those, and give them freely to the community. That we have the courage to do the right thing, to build our community, standing for peace, standing for unity, and that we dig in and offer our hands to give and to work and to do the really, really difficult things that are necessary in order for us to grow as a community. And I love that slide that says click to exit presentation. And I don't know what I did now. Oh, my goodness. So offering community means that my presentation is now up here. All right, let me just do this. And now you can see everything that's on the desktop. How's that? You like the background? Don't you like the background? Community building is probably, it's right where we are as the atheist movement. When we began, with Dawkins and Dennett and Harris and Hitchens, they were the new atheists, they were the four horsemen, and they ushered in this new openness of sorts for atheists and agnostics and humanists and skeptics to come out. Part of the reason why many of us are out, right? But now we're transitioning into this phase to where we're no longer this baby movement, and we are in the midst of this growing phase, and we have to learn the lessons of community and embrace them in order for us to continue and to go forward through this phase and into the next one. Thank you guys for letting me share. Thank you for all the for being gracious over all the technical glitches. I'm good on time? Okay, all right, questions and answers. Here we go.
Raise your hand, I'll bring the mic to you if you have any questions for Teresa.
How much time do we have?
We've got 8 or so minutes, so we've got time for a few questions.
Okay, so quick question, and I'll do my best to give a quick answer.
I know you're talking about community, and I like what you're saying, but what I experienced when I was in church before I left it is that community has a huge downside, and that is that they made me feel horrible, that they made me feel like I wasn't right. And how do you, and a lot of churches do that, some don't, maybe, but some are better than others. How do you avoid that in building a community, that sense of the outsider, of us versus them? Because once we make a community, then there's outsiders.
Right, that's exactly right. And I wouldn't say, I mean, maybe that's the proper term. I wouldn't say that we're the community and everybody else is the outsiders. Obviously, there has to be some bleed over. Otherwise, we wouldn't have helped folks in different areas. But as far as a community being an organization of people who share a common set of beliefs, a common goals, passions, etc., that does make kind of an inclusive community. It doesn't mean that we're not going to accept people from the outside. I'm living proof that you accept people from the outside. I mean, I wasn't just religious, I was a pastor. That's pretty much as far as you can go with it. But there is always that danger of community becoming a cliquish group where you have the insides and the outsides within your community. And it's something you have to really work at. I mean, I shared that within the community I grew up in, a religious community, I was an outsider because I was a woman. It didn't matter who I was or what skills I had or anything. I had one purpose in life, and that was to be submissive to men, to a man, to my husband. So yeah, it's a huge danger. It's something that always has to be addressed and looked at. It's that trial and error part, and it's that part to where as a community we have to be willing to acknowledge those things and attempt to work at them. And I don't think you get it right every time. I don't think any community ever gets it right for the most part. But I do think communities that are strong and growing are just like that. They're an organism that is continually evolving, continually developing, learning from past generations, making the same mistakes of past generations. But it's all a part of something that is worth the risk and worth the effort. Someone else. And I'll try to make my answers shorter next time. Yes? Oh, you're back here. I'm so sorry.
So we talk a lot when we talk about atheist community building. We talk a lot about what do churches and other religious organizations offer in terms of community that we're not offering. Do you think that there are things that atheist communities can offer that religion isn't giving?
Oh, yeah. I mean, goodness gracious. I would hope that we can offer, and again, community is not perfect, but I would hope that we can offer them an example of acceptance. I try to talk about that every time that I give a speech anywhere, but especially when I'm interviewed. I like to emphasize the fact that the atheist community accepted me and my family. The atheist community cared as a community with their heart. They cared for my family, not just with love and encouragement and support and notes, but with money. I mean, when you care with money, you know you really care, right? Money's hard to get out of, I mean, that's you're talking real stuff there when you're talking money. So, yeah, I mean, and that's just one example. Openness, open-mindedness. I'm really hoping that that's something that as a community we embrace. There's always those that are narrow-minded or closed-minded, but on the whole, I think that our movement and our community can offer that example of an open-minded person who's always learning, always growing, and always embraces the fact that, as I said a minute ago, we don't have all the answers, but we want to continually seek those answers. And that's just a couple. I could give a whole talk on it, so I'll give someone else a chance to ask a question.
How important do you think it is for, like, the church to have a physical building? Like, I notice in Wichita where we live, we have, a couple little groups and we get together where we can, but I'm just wondering, in terms of community building, how important is that kind of shared space?
That's something that I've been asked about a lot. A lot of groups are discussing a secular center or having a building. And, there's two sides of the coin. For some, and then this is where we have to really get specific about our specific local communities. What is the DNA of your community? What fits your community? Not everything is going to fit everybody's community. A quick example, I remember when, not Richard Dawkins, oh my goodness, he'll kill me if he knows that I put his name in for Rick Warren. I'm telling you, when Rick Warren wrote The Purpose-Driven Life and his church suddenly became mainstream, every church out there wanted to get his model, and they wanted to take the purpose-driven church model and lay it over on their church, use those same exact principles so they could have a big, huge mega church. Well, it didn't work at all. Why? Because a church that's out there in California that has a specific demographic, that has a specific goal and aim and mission and purpose is completely different than my church in North Florida, Conservativeville, and those things are just not going to work. The same thing's true with our communities. Some communities are meetup groups, and that's what they're happy with and how they want to exist in community. Other communities could benefit from a building and could benefit from the shared common goal of offering a secular center, of offering parenting classes or meeting space for other free thought groups, physical resources, yeah, exactly. A common place that you knew was, this is the Kansas State University, SOMA, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you have to see again, there's the contest. Come up with a name for it for me. So, yeah. It could be either way. It just depends on how hard you're willing to work to find out what your particular group's DNA is. Okay, yes.
One last question.
One last question.
Now, did you say there's a church or a gathering for atheists and free thinkers and whatnot? Mm-hmm. Does this church pay taxes?
I don't know. That's a good question. The one in London, I don't even know what their tax laws are there. The one in Houston, if it's a 501c3, unless it's a religious, I don't know. That's a good question. Why don't you email him, Mike Ouse, tell him I said to email him and ask him. He would actually answer your question very well. If he's like the rest of us, yeah, we pay, we either get the nonprofit status on certain things, but we still have to do all the crazy paperwork and everything, so, oh no.
So the North Texas Church of Free Thought in Dallas
Yeah.
is one that actually qualifies this way. As far as the tax exempt status, as long as they're 501c3, just like the atheist community of Austin, they don't have to pay federal taxes. But Texas has very specific laws about property tax exemption. And we, the ACA in Austin, had to do the same thing that Madeline did when American Atheist was in Austin. We created a daughter corporation that is a library so that the building that we bought a year and a half ago is tax exempt.
Right.
And they may be doing something similar.
They could be. I mean, American Atheist does that. And it's a shame that nonprofits like that have to kind of jump through hoops in order to do that. And even with it, we still have to file all the wonderful paperwork. So that's an excellent question. All right. All done?
Yeah,
One more?
all done. Thank you, Teresa.
All right.